At 7:10 a.m. local time, a Tomahawk missile bursts from the deck of the USS Spruance and hurtles toward Iran. The booster detaches, a turbofan the size of a coffee table roars to life, and the Tomahawk descends to 50 feet above the waterline. 4 seconds later, the next cell fires. Then another, and another. The largest U.S. military operation since the 2003 invasion of Iraq has just begun. And the Iranians were about to learn firsthand why Americans don't have free public health care. Within 90 seconds, 8 missiles are on their way. 300 meters to the northwest, 2 other destroyers are executing the exact same sequence. 25 Tomahawks now surf the crests of the waves, their radar altimeters illuminating them, weaving between Iranian coastal surveillance stations on routes plotted to exploit every known gap in their coverage. Flight time to the IRGC naval bases on Iran's southern coast, 40 minutes. Absolutely no one in Iran knows they're coming. Somewhere along the Gulf Coast, an Iranian radar operator is probably sipping tea, staring at a blank screen. He has about 39 minutes of quiet left, but Tomahawks are patient and slow. 550 miles per hour over open water means 40 minutes of exposure, where a single coastal radar pin could compromise the entire southern attack. Now everything depends on what crossed the border before them. Already inside Iranian airspace, a wave of drones. Lucas is doing something no American weapon has ever done. An Iranian air defense operator on a Babar 373 battery watches as a dozen slow-moving contacts materialize on his screen, penetrating inland from the coast at barely 110 knots. He can't tell which ones are carrying 40-pound warheads aimed at his radar antenna and which ones are just electronic noise. So he does the only thing his training allows. He fires. The interceptor comes off the rail. Over $1 million. It chases a drone the size of a lawnmower, catches up at 3 times the speed of sound, and turns it into confetti. But that wasn't a Tomahawk. What it just blew to bits was a low-cost unmanned combat system, or Lucas drone, operated by Task Force Scorpion Strike. These drones, reverse-engineered by Spectral Works in Mesa, Arizona, from captured Iranian Shahed 136, cost $35,000 each and are currently the most important aircraft over Iranian territory. Fire again, another $1 million, and again. This is cost-trading warfare on an industrial scale. Every interceptor chasing a drone cheaper than a used pickup truck is one less in the magazine when 25 Tomahawks appear in 30 minutes. And worse, every time that battery fires, it transmits its exact position to the passive sensors of the F-35s that are currently crossing the Iraqi border. That operator is burning through ammunition and painting a target on his forehead at the same time. And the Iranian air defense commanders, celebrating their shoot-downs, are about to discover something unpleasant. Those interceptors they just burned up are going to be needed, every single one of them, in about 25 minutes, because what crossed the Iraqi border next wasn't a $5,000 drone. 12 F-15 Primera Rahams had been climbing eastward through Iraqi airspace for 90 minutes, protected behind a curtain of F-35 Premier Adders, flying in total silence ahead without their electronic warfare suites, passively cataloging every radar emission along the Iranian border without emitting a single thing. The Rahams were flying in the electromagnetic shadow, each carrying a Rampage missile suspended below the fuselage centerline. At 8:05 a.m. local time, the formation reached launch altitude over western Iraq. The weapons officer in the rear seat had been watching his designation screen update and coordinates refined 3 times via Link 16 from an Israeli Oron intelligence aircraft orbiting over Jordan for the past hour. The final solution is confirmed. The pilot squeezes the release trigger. 11 kilometers are jettisoned, and the ram jumps, its nose lifting from the sudden weight loss. The fly-by-wire corrects before the pilot's hands can react. Beneath the aircraft, the solid rocket motor ignites. The weapon breaks the sound barrier in seconds, leaving an exhaust trail that the pilot can see shrinking in his rearview mirrors as the missile ascends in a ballistic arc toward Tehran. 11 more Rahams release their payloads within seconds of each other, 12 weapons accelerating beyond any Iranian interception capability at this stage of flight, arcing eastward. A Tomahawk from Iraq needs 45 minutes to reach Tehran. These weapons need minutes. That difference is the whole game. And 45 minutes gives Iranian radar operators time to detect, track, request authorization, and fire. Minutes give them time to see the impact on the news. Spent boosters will fall in fields across eastern Iraq. Open-source analysts will photograph them in hours, but right now, 12 warheads are converging on Pasteur Street. Tomahawks are 10 minutes from the Gulf Coast. Oh, and the air defense batteries that Lucas drones have been emptying all morning are running out of ammunition. At 8:10, it all hits at once. Long-range weapons strike first. Supersonic warheads arriving with no warning, functionally zero. The Supreme Leader's office on Pasteur Street takes multiple direct hits. A passing Herbis satellite captures the aftermath. Several buildings within the compound are reduced to shattered concrete, plumes of smoke piercing the morning air. Within minutes, F-35s and ADRs cross the border loaded with JDAMs and small-diameter GBU-39 bombs. This is where the F-35's sensor fusion justifies every last dollar of its price. The pilot diving toward the Ministry of Defense doesn't switch between radar screens, infrared sensors, and threat displays. The aircraft's computers merge absolutely everything, its own sensors, Link 16 data from every aircraft in the formation, satellite imagery, all into a single picture. He sees every Iranian radar still operating within a 200-mile radius, every friendly aircraft, the GPS coordinates of the 3 buildings he's about to bomb through the roof. One screen, one image, like driving with a GPS that shows you every traffic camera, every speed camera, and every pothole, all updated in real time. And Iran spent 30 years building an integrated air defense network. The F-35 turned it into a highlight reel. The pilot rolls belly up at 25,000 feet, lowers the nose toward the Ministry of Defense complex, and releases a small-diameter GBU-39. The weapon weighs only 250 pounds. A quarter the size of a standard JDAM, but its GPS-guided diamond-shaped wings allow it to glide more than 40 miles from the launch point. And at this distance, circular error is measured in single-digit feet. The SDB pierces the roof of the ministry and detonates with a delayed fuse inside the 3rd floor, the level where military planning documents reside. The pattern is repeated throughout Tehran, the Ministry of Intelligence, the Atomic Energy Organization headquarters, the Parchin military complex, each target selected because it cannot be quickly rebuilt, relocated, or replaced with backup systems. The F-35s aren't hitting government buildings at random. They are severing the administrative nervous system that connects Iran's military leaders to their units in the field, their intelligence, and their nuclear bureaucracy. But every minute the F-35s remain over Tehran, their fuel runs low and their exposure grows. And from the mountains of western Iran, the country's most capable air defense system, the one the Lucas drones have yet to reach, is tracking each and every one of them. 700 miles south of the smoke over Tehran, the Tomahawk missiles finally reach the coast. The first warhead impacts the IRGC naval base at Kahlua at 8 a.m. local time. The command building collapses inward. Fuel tanks behind it ignite, and a column of black smoke rises, piercing the morning dampness. 4 minutes later, an F-15 Strike Eagle from the 48th Fighter Wing, deployed to Jordan from Raflaken Heath, enters from the north at 18,000 feet with a 60-degree dive angle. The weapons systems officer in the rear seat has been studying this target on his APG-82 radar for 40 minutes. A reinforced concrete shelter with a crescent roof faces the sea, designed to protect the PAP-class fast attack craft inside. These are the boats Iran built to saturate the Strait of Hormuz. 15 meters long, armed with machine guns and rocket launchers, not designed to launch in swarms of 100 and overwhelm U.S. tankers and ships with sheer volume. Today, no one's going anywhere. Designate the shelter, confirm JEP's engagement, release the GBU-31, 900 kilogauss detached from the central station. The JDAM tail kit deploys 4 grid fins, adjusting 10 times per second, directing a slab of tritonal and hardened steel toward a roof built to withstand shrapnel, not a weapon impacting with the force of a speeding freight car. 30 seconds of free fall. The bomb pierces the concrete arch and detonates inside the shelter. The overpressure has nowhere to go. The walls burst outward. The roof collapses onto the boats like a clenching fist. The Strike Eagle is already climbing at 5G back to altitude when the U.S. Navy confirms the impact in podium images. Below them, if the Strait of Hormuz remains open and calm, Iran spent 40 years threatening to mine it and strangle the world economy. The boats they were supposed to do are burning under a collapsed roof on the Gulf Coast, and the Navy is far, far from being finished with Iran today. 500 miles to the east, the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln is cruising at 30 knots upwind. On the flight deck, an F-1 Super Hornet from VF-41. Black Aces is positioned at Catapult 1 with both F-414 engines at military power. The catapult officer ducks, touches the deck, the retainer breaks, and the launcher fires from 0 to 265 km/h in less than 3 seconds. 4Gs push the pilot's spine against the ejection seat with enough force to test whether breakfast will stay put. The black AESs are heading for Chabahar and Iran's only deep water port on the Gulf of Oman. Tomahawks hit the command post and fuel depots 20 minutes ago. The oil reserves send up a plume of black smoke visible 100 kilometers away in the forward infrared of the attack package. But the submarine docks are still standing. If a Gadir-class submarine manages to escape to the open sea, it can carry mines into the Strait of Hormuz with a hole small enough to hide in commercial traffic. That can't happen. The Hornet leader attacks the submarine dock with a GBU-31 JDAM. Its wingman from VFA-14, Top Hatters, follows 30 seconds later and drops another 900-kilo bomb on the adjacent dry dock. If you can't refuel a submarine, repair it or load it with mines. And it's basically a very expensive garden ornament. A third pair attacks the C-802 anti-ship missile battery on the coastal cliff. The launcher that could threaten the oil tankers and coalition ships in the narrow strait is destroyed, and the battery ceases to exist. All along the Gulf Coast, the coordinated pattern of Tomahawk missiles, followed by house-to-house attacks, has already hit Salouye, Chabahar, and Bandar Abbas, home to Iran's Kilo-class submarines and the IRGC Navy's Rapid Attack Headquarters. The carrier-based air group still has plenty of weapons on its pylons as insurance against any IRGC boat brave enough to venture out. None do. But 500 miles to the north, the F-35s over Tehran are running low on fuel, and the air defense system in the western mountains is waking up. 3 hours into the operation, right? The weapon Iran was counting on is finally giving itself away. After Israel dismantled virtually all of Iran's 300 Russian-supplied missile batteries in October 2024, Iranian engineers did something truly impressive. They spent 2 years building a domestic replacement, which the IDF would later designate as the SA-A65. A mobile phased array radar with roughly 150-kilometer engagement range, the ceiling of what Iran could manufacture under sanctions, they positioned it in the Kermanshah Mountains, guarding the western corridor that Israeli jets have been using all morning. An EA-18G Growler from the Lincoln Air Group picks up the first transmission. The SA-65 search radar has been pulsing intermittently for hours. Short bursts trying to track the F-35I missiles without staying on long enough to attract a missile. But now, with a second wave of Rayham missiles entering the corridor, the battery commander makes the decision every air defense operator dreads. He switches to fire control, full power, continuous tracking. He's going to attempt a shot. The moment it transmits is over. The Growler's next-generation ALQ-249 jammer floods its tracking frequency with enough power to turn the display into pure noise. Simultaneously, an F-35I, which has been passively mapping that transmission for 90 minutes, transmits the exact coordinates via Link 16, and from a Super Hornet orbiting 65 km to the west, an AGM-8 missile detaches from its pylon, ignites its rocket motor, and accelerates to nearly Mach 3. The missile's multi-mode seeker, both GPS inertial and millimeter wave guided, doesn't care if the radar shuts down. It already knows where it lives. From transmission to impact, less than 90 seconds. Iran spent 2 years building a replacement for the air defense system that Israel destroyed, and Israel and the United States destroyed the replacement before it could launch. A U.S. official later declared, "We have effectively suppressed their air defenses." That sequence rewrites the rest of the day, because the aircraft that have been circling over Iraq for 3 hours, waiting for this exact moment, finally received clearance to penetrate deep. 12 F-22 Raptors received the order. Raptors. They are the jets from Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia, call signs 51 through 66, deployed to the region via RAF Lackenheit 4 days earlier. They have been burning fuel in the skies over western Iraq for 3 hours, watching as the air defense landscape shifted from red to AM. Now it's time to move in. The Raptor's lead pilot pushes both sticks to military power and turns east into Iranian airspace. His APG-7 radar is painting everything within a 200-kilometer radius, tracking contacts the size of golf balls, while his own aircraft returns a radar signature roughly the size of a marble. An Iranian fighter would need to be within 25 kilometers to register anything. At 25 kilometers, their AMRAAMs are already flying. It's the radar equivalent of being invisible until you're standing in someone's living room. But the Raptors aren't here to blow up houses. They're here to listen. The F-22's AN/LR-94 is the most effective electronic warfare suite ever mounted on a fighter jet. More than 30 antennas are integrated along the wings, fuselage, and tail, each tuned to a different portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. As the Raptor flies over central Iran, The system silently catalogs every electronic emission on the ground below, or a mobile S battery that was relocated during the morning chaos and believes itself to be hidden. The ALR-94 has already geolocated it with its search radar, an IRGC command post communicating on a frequency they believe to be secure. Recorded, coordinates tagged, forwarded via Link 16 to an F-15E orbiting 100 km behind. The Raptor pilot doesn't fire a single shot he doesn't need to. Every bit of data his aircraft gathers makes the next attacker's job easier. The Iranian Air Force, with its 40 operational MiG-29s, a handful of surviving F-14 Tomcats, and some aging Phantoms that were already old when Top Gun premiered, is staying grounded. A smart decision. But on the ground in western Iran, a different battle is reaching its climax. While Raptors are mapping central Iran and the Navy is dismantling the Gulf Coast, the most desperate fighting of the day is taking place in the mountains of Kermanshah, Loristan, and Khuzestan. 30 F-15s and RAMs loaded with glide bombs, Rafael Spices, and cruise missiles are fanning out across 3 provinces. They are hunting down TELs, transporters, erectors, launchers, the heavy trucks that transport, lift, and fire ballistic missiles capable of reaching Israeli cities. The arithmetic is ruthless. An IRGC missile crew can haul a Shahab 3 out of an armored tunnel in the mountains, position themselves in a valley, connect fuel lines, erect the missile on the rail, and launch in under 30 minutes. Then they drive the empty truck back underground before the next satellite pass. The IDF has spent months building target packages from signals intelligence, satellite imagery, and reportedly human sources within the IRGC itself. Each of those sources is earning its keep this morning. Finding a missile launcher in the mountains of western Iran is like finding a specific food truck in New York City, except this food truck is trying to hit you in the VIV and moves every 20 minutes. CFDI drone footage released hours later captures the defining moment of the day. An Iranian telegraph captured mid-sequence in a narrow valley, grainy infrared. The missile, now vertical above the launcher, is likely a variant of the Shahab 3. A ground crew is visible at the base, connecting the last fuel umbilicals. The Rayham weapons officer in orbit has the crosshairs centered on the launcher rail, but waits. If he releases now, the Spice's lethal radius will reach the truck, but the missile might come down cleanly, damaged, not destroyed. He needs the fuel lines connected. He needs the crew assembled at the base. He needs everything in one place. 10 seconds. 15. The crew backs away from the umbilical connection point. He releases. The Rafael Spice glide bomb detaches from the pylon and spreads its wings. GPS and electro-optical guidance direct it down the valley on a trajectory calculated to impact the launcher base at a low angle, maximizing the blast footprint on the truck and the missile simultaneously. 12 seconds of guided flight. The warhead detonates at the junction of the launcher rail and the truck chassis. The Shahab 3's fuel tank ruptures, and 3 tons of liquid propellant ignite in a secondary fireball that blinds the infrared camera for a full 2 seconds. When the image returns, the valley floor is scorched. The TEL is scrap metal, but they can't capture them all. Iran has hundreds of TELs scattered throughout the western mountains. Some are in tunnels with already collapsed entrances, some are decoys, and some are crews that refuel quickly enough, erect drone passes, and launch before a Rayham arrives. Those missiles are already arcing toward Israeli cities. Some Iranian counterattack fire is going to happen, and the only way to limit how much is to destroy Iran's largest arsenal of conventional weapons before it's launched, with Raptors feeding targeting data to every aircraft in the theater and Iranian air defenses functionally eliminated if the coalition scales to full capacity. The next wave of Israeli strikes, targeting 30 more houses, unfolds across Isfahan, Bushehr, and surrounding areas. 60 precision munitions are fired against targets missed by the initial strikes. Ballistic missile depots, air defense production lines, drone regiment headquarters, and Shahed depots. Reinforced warehouse and hangar complexes packed with Shahed 136 single-direction attack drones, refueled, armed, and pre-programmed with coordinates of Israeli cities and U.S. bases, stacked on launch racks awaiting orders. These are the same drones the IRGC planned to launch in swarms of hundreds as part of its retaliation that very afternoon. J-dams and small-diameter bombs rained down on depot after depot across 3 provinces. 950 drones are eliminated. Simultaneously, U.S. strikes pound the IRGC's innermost command and control infrastructure, underground bunkers, communications repeaters, and fiber optic nodes. The targeting logic is simple. Cut off communications first, and commanders can't coordinate even if they want to. Iran's internet drops to 4% of its normal capacity, confirmed by NetBlocks. However, a hacked Iranian prayer app still manages to send a simple message to millions of phones. Help has arrived. If you found this video interesting, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any analysis. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand what's really going on, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now check out our other video where the US crippled Iran's nuclear program. See you in the next one.